Welcome back. You're powering through. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you've got a caffeinated beverage by your side and you're ready to do a little bit of math. Now, we're going to keep the math simple. We're going to talk about if statements and operators. We're going to make a new file. And so, new file, and then we're going to save it. File, save as. All right, and we're going to call it lesson 8. Operators, yeah, it was called operators.php, and I'm going to make that lowercase. Okay, and now we're going to come over here and we're going to do lesson 8 operators. Okay, so now we grab our two things and copy them in, and we can close down lesson 6 and 7, so we've got a nice clean screen. Now, if you remember back from elementary, middle school math, there are symbols that are used and to tell whether something is greater than or less than. And that's the kind of things we're going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to learn the very basics of an if statement, because this is how we're going to have the computer tell us whether the statement that we have is true or false. And that's really what we're trying to figure out. So we're going to say if, and then we're going to hit the tab. And then we're going to say, so we have if, and let's just start with this. Let's say if 1 is greater than 5, then echo true. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to write else echo false. So we're learning two things in this thing. We're learning the very basics of an if statement, where we're asking the computer, is what's in this block true? And if it is, echo true. Else, if it's not, echo false. And so if we were to come in here and refresh the page, we would see false. This is not greater than. And then the other one that we could do is less than, and that would be true because 1 is less than 5. So I'm sure you're understanding this. I know we're mixing two concepts, the operators themselves and the if statement, but I think it's all pretty straightforward. Now, another thing you need to know is whether or not something is equal. Now, when you're doing it in a conditional statement like this, you put a double equal. And so we're going to start with a double equal, and we're going to say if 1 equals 5. And that's false because we all know that 1 does not equal 5. But if we want to do not equal, you put the exclamation point and an equal sign. So it is, if 1 is not equal to 5, then echo out true. And so 1 is not equal to 5. So we're going to recap for a second. We have the ability to do things like less than. We have the ability to do things like greater than. We can test if something is equal to, and we can test if something is not equal to. Now, what if we were to change this to 5? Okay, so is 5 is not equal to 5, which is false. If I'm honest, though, you really don't care about whether 5 equals 5. Like, I get it. You're sitting here watching this, and you're like, do I really need to do basic 3rd grade math with PHP? No, that's not what we're doing. So let's do this. Let's do username equals mudmin, okay? And then, so what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to say if username equals mudmin, okay? Now, that's true. And so, like, if you think about it, if, like, let's say you have something special, let's say if you have something, or we could even say, like, if the permission level equals admin, then you want to show them this part of the page. And so, I don't know if you're grasping this, but the idea is that a lot of times when you're going through your code, when you're looping through things, you want to know, is this user male? If so, use him. Is this user an admin? If so, show him this special button. In this case, is the user's name Mudmin? If so, do this. Now, if I were to come in here and change this to Mudmin with a capital M, you'll see that it's listed as false. And that's because you're dealing with, you have capital letters, so they're not the same. Now, if I were to do this, let's change this up a little bit. Let's say ID. Let's pretend that we have a user ID, and we're going to say if ID equals 12. Let's try this. And here we're going to make it 12. So if ID equals 12, that's true. But like, what happens if up here I put this in quotes and I make this is a string of 12 and this is a number of 12? Well, it's still true. So what's kind of cool is you can decide how close do you want to have to get. So if I were to put 3 equal signs here, which means this needs to be absolutely identical to this, then that's going to show up as false because it's not completely identical. Now, I know we've looked at a lot of concepts. We're gonna keep pressing on. Just stick with me. If you need to, pause the video, play with a few of these things, put some symbols in there, change some things around, see if it's making sense to you. This is not just you go through the content, you go on the next video. Tinker with it, play with it, make your own code. There's one other set of symbols that I want to show you, and we'll actually do this. We'll keep this as 12. In fact, I'll bring this back to a number of 12 just to get rid of any confusion. So if we were to say if it's equals 12, that's going to come up as true. Now, if we were going to say is greater than or equal to, and that's what this symbol means, greater than or equal to 12, that's true. If I were to say is less than or equal to 12, that's true because 12 is less than or equal to 12. Now, what we could do is break this out a little bit more. So let's say if it's equal to 12, then echo exactly right. And then we're going to change this here to say else if ID is less than 12, then we're going to say less. And then down here we're going to say else. And we could say if it's greater than 12, but we don't have to because it's either got to be equal, less than, or greater than. So we're going to say more. So I don't know if you see what we're doing here, but we can see that because the ID is equal to 12, it's going to say right. If it was less than, it would have said less. And if it was anything else, it would say more. So if I change this to 11, then it's less than. So it's going to come here and say less. If I were to say 13, then it's more than, so it's going to say more. So you can see that as you start looking at this, you can start making all of these crazy logic things where you can start doing real code. You can start figuring out, hey, if someone is less than 14 years old, don't let them visit this website. You know, all of that kind of stuff happens with these if statements and these comparisons. I think we're going to end it right there. There's more of them, and we'll show you more as we're writing the extra code, but I just want you to have the idea of these if statements and the fact that checking to see if something is greater than, less than, equal to, it's an important concept, and I can't stress enough that you want to play with it. You want to at least make sure you understand the gist of what's happening here.